Good evening, everybody, and welcome to We the People. Tonight's guest is Dan Whitfield. He's a candidate for Arkansas U.S. Senate, running against the big bad evil Tom Cotton. Hi, Dan. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, how's it going?
Glad to have you here. And, of course, Laura Livengood will be taking your questions. And
I will indeed.
Please tell everybody how to do that, Laura.
If you are in our live chat, please write the word question. If you have anything you want to ask to Dan, we are going to be asking him a ton of questions, so you might want to hold off a bit. But if something pops up and it's pertinent, just write it in the chat and I will ask away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. We're so glad to have Dan. He's an independent candidate for Senate.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. Independent candidate. We got to change that in the lower third right away?
Yep, I thought that. I was going to, I was going to ask right before this, just double check.
Yeah. So, Dan,
there you go.
We'll talk about why, but let's just do it right. So, why run against Tom is my first question. The second will be why choose independent in the area of Arkansas you're in? Right.
Well, honestly, I decided to run against Tom Cotton back in 2017. I just got fed up with all the corruption in our government. I started to see what was going on behind closed doors. And, I started researching him and where his money was coming from. And I was seeing the way that he was voting to represent Arkansans. And I really didn't agree with it. A lot of Arkansans didn't agree with the way he was voting. That's why his approval ratings are so low.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I just, it's time for change. I want my daughter to be able to grow up in a state that cares about her, that she's proud to be in. And I just don't see that coming in Tom Cotton's leadership. And the reason I'm running as an independent, quite honestly, is because I believe a representative should answer to the people and not to a political party.
I like that answer. So the Democratic Party, even though Bernie Sanders jumped in there and is trying to help correct it with people like me, you're just like, nope, I'm going independent, right?
Yeah, even we've gotten to the point where the Koch brothers, they're not only funding Republican candidates, they're funding Democratic candidates now too. So, we really have to be aware of where people's money is coming from so that we know where their favor lies. And I think running as an independent, as a person that's by the people and for the people, I can avoid that whole mess. I won't owe anyone a favor except my constituents, which is the way a representative really should be.
Agreed. Tom seems to represent Goldman Sachs. We'll look at that in a little bit. Everybody, this is a map of where Arkansas is, if you're not familiar. I failed geography as a kid. And you were saying in Green Room that you're from the northern area and that the northern area is more blue. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually up here in northwest Arkansas. It is the most progressive part of Arkansas. It's, we have a Republican mayor or a Democratic mayor down in Fayetteville.
Right.
It's a real progressive part of the state.
Fayetteville, I am familiar with that town because, as we said in Talking Green Room, I used to do a little bit of business with Crossmark, and I'm familiar with them. Tell everybody what two giant corporations have headquartered their lives in your area.
So, yeah, I actually live 15 minutes away from Walmart corporate headquarters. They are here in the area. It's really strong. They own most of the stores here. They own their own, Casey's, the gas stations, Harvest Bank, the banking systems.
Wow.
You're not going to find like a Costco or a Safeway up here. It's all Walmart neighborhood markets, which is cool. But the problem with it is that they're also the top donors for all of our elected officials.
Right.
And then you start to come into this conflict of interest thing where you have our officials that are supposed to be representing us, but for some reason we're the 49th poorest state in America and we pay the third highest taxes. How can we be home to one of the largest companies in the world, but we're the 49th poorest state in America?
Yeah, you guys stats-wise are not looking that great, and I'm not claiming that Oregon, deserves any awards. We've got a lot of faux progressives up here. This is I just grabbed this from the U.S. News and World Report's latest stats. In healthcare, you're 49, education 42, economy 43, infrastructure 47. And you mentioned some other stat that you were 49th in on your website, right? Why do you think this is?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with where the money's coming from and where it's going. Like, for example, Tom Cotton, Bozeman, They're taking all of this money from special interest donors like Walmart and Tyson, and then in exchange, they're keeping this a right to work state. There's trying to form a union in Arkansas is pretty much impossible. Workers don't have the rights that they should have. They keep wages low. They've got this really good, lie going around saying that we have a lower cost of living, so it's okay to have a lower minimum wage. But, being from somewhere where it's a higher cost of living, but the wages are so much higher, I've seen firsthand that that's really not true. If you're in another state with higher wages, say you can make $7,000-8,000 a month, and your bills might be $3,000 or $4,000 a month, but you're still able to bank $3,000 or $4,000. Whereas out here, you're going to make $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Your bills are only $1,000 to $2,000, but you're still only saving $2,000-3,000 a month or less.
Right.
And especially Arkansas having such a low income, so many people out here are just struggling to live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
And it's a huge issue. It really is. They talk about how the unemployment is so low, but what they forget to mention is that it's low because people are working 2 to 3 jobs just to live paycheck to paycheck. It's not that these are good quality, high paying jobs. They're just flooding the market with, low paying jobs. And that's a big problem. And that's where Walmart, comes into hand.
Right.
They pay, I think, $11.25 now is their minimum wage. They just raised it. But actually, us as American taxpayers, we foot the bill for $6 billion a year in Walmart employees' welfare because they're paying such low wages that these employees qualify for welfare. I mean, there's so many issues. There's so much to talk about. I'm glad we got a lot of time.
No, you're right on the mark, and it's true. I mean, we subsidize the workers at Walmart. We shouldn't be, and meanwhile, the Waltons run off and buy another yacht, right?
Yeah.
And Tom Cotton, I don't know what he's worth, but I know that his top donor is Goldman Sachs, and so he's got a payroll the size of that barn there. I'm going to bring this up now. I saw this question in the audience, and I want to ask it because this is kind of important as to why you're running independent. But what do you think of who was the guy? We were talking about him in the group, Josh Mahoney, the Democrat that's running. So talk about him because you had some interesting statements about him and why you talk about him.
Well, from what I've heard, he's a good guy. He's got his heart in the right place. But the biggest problem with Josh Mahoney is he's not clear on his policy stance. And we don't need more politicians. What we need are representatives that are very transparent with how they feel. And we're not getting that with Josh Mahoney. He actually ran last year for the House in District 3 here in Arkansas against Steve Womack. I like to call him Yes Man Womack because he's voted like 267 yeses out of the last 270 votes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of the things he voted against were like raising a minimum wage for federal employees.
Nice.
He voted against allowing banks to do business with legal cannabis companies. I mean, just the good stuff that you shouldn't be voting against. But he lost to Steve Womack by 30 points in the most progressive part of the state.
That's not a good sign.
Yeah, if you can't win in the most progressive part of the state, how can you really expect to win across the entire state? And what's important right now isn't really whether he wins or I win. What's important is that we replace Tom Cotton.
Right. Right.
He's trying to send us to war. He's raising our taxes. He's not helping our Kansans.
He's, we'll get into that. He's quite the war hawk, Mr. Tom, and seems to be quite the Trump fan as well. You're talking to constituents on the ground right now, and I'd like to just ask you, I mean, as coming from Mr. Hippie Oregon here, we don't look at Arkansas as being much more than Trump territory. What are you hearing from the people you talk to? How do they feel about Trump and the administration?
Well, Trump did win this state. He does have a lot of support. But at the same time, a lot of the people who supported Trump back in 2015 and 2016, they don't support him anymore. While he was campaigning, he was very clear on a few things. Number one, he would not touch Social Security. Number two, he would not touch Medicaid, Medicare.
Right.
And, he fought to be, a person fighting for the working class. And that's how he got elected. And ever since he's taken office, he's done the opposite. He's raised our taxes. He's already cut Medicaid, Social Security. He's, cutting food stamps. He didn't want to fund WIC and CHIP. He's hurting all of these social programs that, as the 49th lowest income state, a lot of our Arkansans and the people who live here are directly suffering from this policy. And it's really too bad. And I think a lot of them are starting to realize that, what he's doing is affecting me and my family. And that's not okay.
Do you think they're connecting the socialist programs that they live off of to the concept of socialism that we hear Republicans and MSM down talk all the time, and the idea that we can socialize anything, including the military?
Yeah. So it's funny how socialism's terrible until corporations want a little bit. But at the same time, I don't think it's a socialist issue. I consider myself a social capitalist. America, we are a capitalist nation. We weren't built for religious reasons. We were built for capitalist reasons.
Really?
The Virginia Company came, and the Virginia Company was what? A corporation. Corporations are what formed America. And, I believe capitalism has its place, and we are what we are today because of it. But it's the crony capitalism that's really a big problem. It's the greed and the way that we have allowed our capitalist system to hurt working class people. And that's where I start to draw a line. If we can spend $1 trillion a year on war, then we can afford to spend $200 billion a year to take care of the people, because a nation's not as great as its army is maybe 100 years ago. But now, we can only consider ourselves as great as the most vulnerable citizens among us.
All right. I'll run with some of that. I will say I'm a complete anti-capitalist, and I don't think we'll be able to survive without it. And that I don't think there's ever been a point in history when capitalism has actually been fair, right? But yeah, not the point. Goldman Sachs. I just want to show everybody. This is Tom's stats here and where he gets his money from. I just want everybody to understand that this is the top 5. Goldman Sachs, McNabb Dental Plans, whoever the hell they are, Lockheed Martin, one of my faves in the war industry, Stevens Inc., I don't know who they are, Norpac. It's all money coming from business interests, basically. So, it makes a lot of sense considering what Tom does, and he pushes the arms trade a lot. I also want to show everybody something really fun. Where's Tom? Keep this in mind, just real quick. We'll have fun with this. This is one of Tom's Twitter accounts. So notice the red barn, okay? Here's his website. Now, it's got a slider, and I went through looking for actual content on the issues, and here's what I found. Stock photo, stock photo, stock photo, stock photo. Tom is in the bottom part there, everybody. That's Tom in the middle, you can tell there. But then I went to Dan's site, and I found this, and I thought this was a very key piece of the page on the site. And it says, the main point of our campaign is to give Arkansans their voices back. My stance on policy is not what's important. What is important is you. So what I want to know, Dan, talk about that. What do you mean by that? Your stance on policy isn't important.
So, America was never a democracy. We are a representative republic. Our founding fathers, they didn't want us even drinking or voting. That's not what they thought that we could do. And at the time, it was understandable because, like 1% of Americans had a college degree. Most Americans were ignorant, uneducated. There was no way to really communicate back and forth throughout the colonies and keep up to current issues, But it's 2019, and with this little thing that we have called technology, we can, we are educated. We can keep in touch with issues, and we have the ability to vote for ourselves on policy that's going to affect our lives. And I think a direct democracy is really what we need with the current situations that we're in right now. We've gotten to the point where our elected representatives, they've taken so much special interest money that they're voting against what's best for their constituents. A good example is 67% of children born in Arkansas are covered by Medicaid. So why are our representatives voting to cut Medicaid?
Right.
I mean, it's very simple stuff like that. And, you know, there's some really good solutions, I think, too, to issues like this. You know, one thing that I'm in full support of is getting rid of all congressional lobbying. You know, right now I saw Ted Cruz and AOC. They're trying to work on a policy right now to prevent ex-congressmen from being lobbyists, but I don't think that's going far enough. I think we need to get rid of congressional lobbying. There are so many lobbyists in America that you can have a different lobbyist call you once every hour for the entire year and never talk to the same lobbyist twice.
Very true.
I mean, that's how much money there is. And, you know, it even goes a little bit further than that. We just need to get the financial interests out of our legislative branch, because as long as our legislative branch has a financial interest, they're not going to represent us. They're going to represent their own interests, because that's human nature, survivability. And we really need to address that. And there's some ways we can fix that too, I've thought of. You know, when you join the military, you give up certain rights. And if you don't like it, you don't join the military. Well, I think it should be the same if you run for an elected position. If you're going to be a public servant, you should give up the right to financial privacy. And if you don't like it, don't run. If you're going to run for an elected position, your constituents should be able to go look at your personal bank accounts, look at where your money's coming from, where your money's going, and they should be able to see for themselves that you have their interests at heart. And if you don't like it, you don't run. You know, it's really simple stuff. We could also require all legislators to liquidate their stock portfolios upon taking office. If they were to liquidate their portfolio and then we prevent them from being shareholders while they're in office, that would take away the rest of their financial interests in their position.
Well, nobody would take office. You'd have no rich people in office. Like, no.
Well, I mean, you can always liquidate your funds, and then you can, you know, after you're done in office and you don't have the legislative powers anymore, you can, you know, get back into the market if you so desire.
Doesn't this conflict directly with your belief that America was founded on capitalism?
Yes.
Isn't that just practicing capitalism?
When you're a public servant, it's different, you know?
Oh. Well, good luck passing that one with all the public servants. I mean, it's a nice idea. I'm just all for making elections publicly funded and, you know, making it, let's take the money out of the game that way so that we don't have to worry about, I don't want lobbyists either, right?
There are definitely baby steps we can take. That's just, you know, long term. You know, what we have, in my opinion, in order to remove all financial interest from a position.
I think it's a great idea. I think we got some, if you want to go with technology, right? And I like the idea of using technology to have your constituents directly tell you what they want, right?
Yeah. If there's a piece of policy on the table, then Arkansans should be able to either vote, you know, by mail, text message, over the phone, you know, even through the website. It's not hard to be able to enter your social security number to prove that you're a registered voter and cast your vote. And it would be an audited process, and then Arkansans would actually have a direct say on how they want me to vote before I vote. Of course, there may be, you know, immediate situations that require myself to make a judgment call without them having the opportunity, but a majority of all votes would be from the people, which is what I believe we really need at this point in our current government.
Right, but as we talked about in Green Room, and I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for that. I don't really think we need a middle person. I just want to, you know, here's what we're going to do today. Bink, hit my button. But, you know, we talked about the problem, and I'll reference the slide that says 31% of Arkansans are college educated. That's got probably the average across the United States as well. Do you really think we can implement a system like that right now with the current education level of our voting populace?
Well, the first thing we really need to do is educate people. You know, education should be more important than war. We put more money into our prison systems than we do into our colleges. You know, Bernie Sanders is trying to give free, you know, make it so that all citizens can attend, you know, four-year universities for free right now. He's trying to eliminate student debt, which I think are brilliant ideas because, you know, we've really got to educate the public. And we're at a point now where we can. A lot of people do want to get educated. And, you know, if you don't, If you don't want a degree, that's cool. So how about you can go to vocational training instead? You know,
Right.
I'm a full-time student right now, and I understand the struggles it is to, pay a mortgage, to pay your utilities, food, clothes, repairing your car, and paying student loans and paying all this stuff at the same time. It's not easy. And, I was really listening to what Bernie had to say about eliminating student debt. And I was thinking, man, it's kind of drastic. Like, maybe we could do something a little less, crazy. And so my thoughts have changed. Just bear with me. And, and I was thinking, maybe we can just start with like getting rid of student debt interest. Maybe capping the interest rate at like 0.5% or something like that, because our government shouldn't be making profits off the education of citizens that are just trying to better their lives and better society. And, I started thinking about it really hard. And I came up with the analyzation of, if you're not in school, what are you doing? You're working because you have bills to pay. That's part of life. So you're replacing your work with your school so that you can better yourself to better society. And while you're working, you're having an income, and that income is paying your bills.
Yo.
Whereas when you replace that job with school and student loans, you are basically going to school, and instead of having an income to pay bills, you're just incurring debt.
Right.
So I do think student loans should be relieved 100%, because if you were going to work, you wouldn't be incurring debt, and you're just replacing work. If we can get to the point where people can actually afford to educate themselves, and we can afford to have these higher, better paying jobs, our entire society as a whole will start to improve. The average college graduate makes what? It's more than like, $100,000 more in their lifetime. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a house. Well,
depending on where you live. Certainly not a house in California, but it could be a house somewhere else.
That's cute.
That's like a studio flat somewhere in Rialto in California. You know what I mean. And I used to live in Rialto, so I can say that. I'm with you on this with the student debt. I'm just going to give you my perspective on it. Is if the Pentagon can lose trillions, they can cover my loans.
Most definitely. If Wall Street can, competently, purposefully scam Americans out of their money, causing the biggest recession since the Great Depression, making millions and millions of American families lose their homes, and then we come out, we just bail them out. Not one of those bankers who, deliberately wrecked a family's life went to prison, but we can still give them trillions of dollars in a bailout. Yeah. Why can't we bail out the people who are actually working to better society?
Man, don't you wish Obama had pushed for that? I go back and I'm like, why did I praise this dude? He totally screwed me. And I was like, oh, yay. I don't know.
Yeah, I was never a huge Obama fan. The problem with him was I felt like a lot of things he was doing was, just for money. He got a list of 8 names from Citibank before he took office, and all 8 of those people remained on his cabinet throughout his entire presidency.
Hey, stop blowing this white guy's dream here, okay? He was
Sorry.
No, just kidding.
Sorry.
When Bernie woke me, I went, oh, wow, that sucks, right? And it sounds like you feel the burn for the most part. You're talking a lot about Bernie's policies, and you're really kind of going down that line, right?
I don't agree with Bernie on absolutely everything. I agree with him on a lot. I think he's a good man who has his heart in the right place. And the thing that I give him credit for is he woke me up, and he woke up tens of millions of Americans. I would have never understood the corruption in our government without Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And a perfect example of that, Tom Cotton took $8.4 million from the Koch brothers.
That's all?
That's all. $8.4 million. In return, he voted to cut their estate tax, which saved their family $50 billion.
How nice.
Last year, the Koch brothers put $400 million into our election cycle. In 2018, 1 year, $400 million. Yeah. Why would they put $400 million into the election cycle? to get a $50 billion tax break. I mean, and that's what we've come to, is we've gotten to the point where there's just so much special interest money. And that's why I'm running against Tom Cotton. Honestly, it's to get that special interest money out.
I think that's a great reason. And because you believe in climate change. We'll talk about that more. But right now we're going to play Progressive Jeopardy. Right?
Woo!
That's right. So your categories are 100% cotton, aborted rights, and Dan says. Please pick a category.
Oh, man. Well, let's see. I will take aborted rights for 100 unicorns.
Okay. And yeah, we play for unicorns because we don't have money. Not a capitalist. This state recently passed 9 laws further restricting abortion rights.
What is Arkansas?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, we have Alabama, we have Arkansas, we have Missouri passing all these abortion laws. And, man, it's honestly, it's a really personal subject for me. So, right off, I do not believe abortion should be used as a form of birth control. But I believe that a woman should have the rights to decide what she does with her own body. My wife and I, she had her second pregnancy, and we had 2 twins. And unfortunately, we lost the first twin. She was absorbed by the second. And we powered through it. And my wife, she was 36 at the time, so they suggest doing a harmony test, because once you're over 36, it's high risk.
Right.
And we found out through this harmony test that the baby actually had tested positive for trisomy 18, which is, a chromosomal issue of having an extra 18th chromosome, which you would think would be a good thing, but it's really not. The doctors informed us right away, and they told us that it's a 100% terminal illness, that, babies with trisomy usually won't last through a pregnancy, or if you get lucky, maybe like a couple days after. And my wife, she's a very devout Catholic, and she does not believe in abortion. The doctors suggested at that point that we abort for health reasons, so that it, because it could hurt my wife. It was risky.
Right.
But we chose to carry the baby to full term. We were told that, if we did a regular vaginal birth, that, the baby wouldn't make it. So my wife did the surgery and had a C-section. And, we kept hope. And, we hoped maybe she didn't have trisomy 18. Maybe it was the twin that was absorbed. There was a chance it could have been. But we didn't, and we tried. Her name was Christy Femme, and she lived for about 5 hours before she passed away.
I'm so sorry.
She passed away in our arms, and it was the best 5 hours and the worst 5 hours. Like, I can't really explain. I don't think I ever could. But what I can say is that I don't think anybody should ever have to go through that. And to give them no option, that is not okay.
Right.
And, we made our choice. Everyone should have their choice to make. But there should be a choice.
It sounds like, and I'm so sorry for your loss, but what I hear you saying is that certainly don't want somebody who's having to face that tragedy be confronted with a legal barrier, right? That's
yeah.
So. I'm so sorry. Wow.
Pence, when he was still governor, one of the things he did for his state was he banned abortions for terminally ill children. Right around the time the Zika virus was a really big issue.
Right.
So women, they found out they're pregnant with a child who's infected with Zika, and they couldn't even abort these children
Right.
who had no business even trying.
Right.
Have to go through that it's not cool. I mean, no one should ever have to have their child die in their arms. It's not okay, and that's why a woman should have a choice. They should.
Right. Yeah.
Let's move on.
Sorry.
We all right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Laura.
That's okay.
All right. Well,
It's sad.
it's heavy. Yeah, that was heavy. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's hard to do. So appreciate that. 100% cotton, or Dan says?
We'll go with 100% cotton.
Okay. 100% cotton. This U.S. Senator from Arkansas recently said, yes, unprovoked attacks on commercial shipping warrant a retaliatory military strike against the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Who is Tom Cotton?
Another good
Wow.
reason I'm glad you're running against him, because this guy really wants to go to war, doesn't he?
And I really don't understand it. I mean, I have a lot of military in my family. Both of my brothers are both out of the army. My middle brother, he actually just got out a couple months ago. Him and his wife are expecting a beautiful little one now. And my brother-in-law, he was in the army. He went to Afghanistan, and he was a gunner in a convoy. His vehicle ran over an IED, and he was the only survivor.
Oh,
He's
geez.
got terrible PTSD. No one should have to go through that. I mean, the way that we send our family members to war, and then the way that we treat them when they come back. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of 22 a day. 22 veterans commit suicide every day.
Yeah.
Because of what they've been through, and then the care that they receive when they get back. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And we really need to address the problems with the VA right now that's even allowing that to happen. My grandparents, they both met in the Navy. I have my uncle, Air Force, Navy, my other one, Army. I have a lot of military in my family.
Sure.
And to come from such a heavy military family, to see a war veteran, warmongering, it blows my mind. I don't understand why he would be pushing us into a needless war when he understands what it's going to do to our society and to the Iranian society. The only logical explanation is because he most likely has money in Raytheon, Boeing, and Dow.
Well, definitely. And I just want to go back to this. I mean, Lockheed Martin, my friends. I only did the top five, but Tom wants war because it makes a lot of money. And
It makes money.
I mean, we've
But
got
at the same
Democrats that
time,
want war. I'm sorry, what?
Is the money that a handful of people are going to make really worth the cost that the damages that it causes to our society?
Oh, I got 22 dead veterans a day. Apparently is fine as long as Tom's raking it in, and that's really what it amounts to.
Yeah.
And where we spend our money. Do you think the military budget should be cut?
Our military budget is more than the second 10, greatest budgets combined. Do I believe it should be cut? We do need a military. We do need a strong military. But what is a strong military? Does it cost $1 trillion a year to have a strong military? The first thing we need to do is we need to bring our troops home.
Right.
We need to get them out of these pointless oil wars where we're just going into foreign nations to steal their natural resources. And, they're going to have something to do. So let's bring them home and let's put them to work rebuilding our infrastructure. Let's put them to work building schools, parks, planting trees. I mean, in the Philippines, before you even graduate, you have to plant trees.
That's pretty cool.
1 billion trees a year in the Philippines. How crazy is that? Why can't we, follow this tiny little nation. Just bring our troops home. Stop sending them to war. We don't need that. I mean, some people, they want Donald Trump's wall. They're gonna have a big wall, a great wall. Well, if we really have to have a wall, which if you don't know anything about history and the Great Wall of China and how the Mongols still got over it, we don't need a wall. But, put our troops to work building a wall. That'll give them something to do. Then, we're paying them anyways. May as well pay them to build a wall. Then we don't have to take, $25 billion straight out of taxpayers' pockets to pay for it. It'll just reallocate it from one place to another that's already being spent.
Well, I'm not sure I want a wall in the first place, but we'll talk about that. But I understand your point. We need to bring them home. You said this in Green Room.
We cut our military budget. And what we should do is we should reduce our budget, not increase our taxes, but use that money and reallocate it towards social programs.
Sure. Other social programs, because the military is just the largest one, right?
Yeah. Such as, our unemployment insurance, it's been cut year after year after year, especially with the way that we've had McDonaldization happening in our society. We've been taking these skilled positions and replacing them with unskilled workers, which cuts costs, but it allows it makes those skilled workers unemployed. Any day, especially here in Arkansas, a right to work state, my boss can just come into my office and they can be like, we no longer need you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do or say about it. That's just the way it is. And when something like that happens, are your bills going to stop? Can you call up your mortgage company and be like, hey, I just lost my job. Can you hold off for 6 months while I find a new one?
Right.
No, it doesn't work that way. And that's what unemployment insurance is for, is to protect, working people when something happens.
Right.
And we've been cutting it, and it makes no sense. We actually cut Arkansas's unemployment insurance in 2016. Did you know that?
Why? Jeez.
So,
is there anything left to cut?
So they lowered the weekly amount. They shortened the duration from, I think, 26 weeks down to 20 weeks so that Mike Huckabee could run for president.
Wow. That was it?
That was it.
That's
how did that make sense? How far did he get? But at least his daughter made press secretary.
Yes. Fine job at that too.
Yeah.
Fine job at that. We are coming close on time. Let us get to your final Jeopardy category here. No, it's quite all right. It's good conversation. I really like I'd like to have this conversation. And this is the final, because Dan says, right, and this is just one of your tweets. A lot of people attended tonight's Lights of Liberty event in Springfield, Arkansas. It's time we stand up to the blank that are profiting off the torture of innocent children. It's time we put an end to these facilities. Children belong in homes, not detainment camps. Who are you talking about there?
Maybe who are the politicians?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we really need to bring attention to this. Children are dying in government custody funded by taxpayers.
Yeah.
We're spending $22,000 per month per child to keep them in these detention facilities. The doctors have gone in and inspected them. And the doctors that come out, you know what they say? They say these conditions are similar to torture conditions.
Right.
So we're spending $22,000 per month per child so that they can live in torture conditions, sleeping on concrete floors. They're little small children running around in diapers that have been dirty for hours because they're being taken care of by 8-year-olds. I mean, not even to mention the overcrowding, the lack of pillows and blankets.
Yeah.
You know what we could do instead? A really easy solution: create a foster program for migrant children whose parents are undergoing the process. Pay an American family $2,000 per month per child, and that will save taxpayers 10 times as much money as we're spending to keep them in torture conditions and put them in loving homes.
Why do we have to put them in homes? I don't understand why we need to separate the children from the parents in the first place.
I do agree. We really shouldn't be separating children from parents in the first place. I mean that's just a step closer, but we should make the full, the full jump to not separating children and their parents.
Well, the full jump to being a humanitarian nation and actually accepting asylum seekers, considering they're coming from countries we recently blew up, right?
We're out there destabilizing governments to the point where, women are worried about walking down the street because they don't know if they're going to get shot,
right,
or if they're raped or kidnapped. Walking from the store to their house because their government has been toppled. And we're going to criticize them for wanting to seek refuge here. I mean, we are literally a nation built on immigrants, by immigrants.
Right.
We came here from England fleeing religious persecution and tyranny.
That we did.
The exact same things that these people are fleeing. I mean, and it kills me to see how inhumane Tom Cotton is. He has no empathy for these people. How can you be a representative and represent people when you don't have the empathy for the way people feel?
That's a great question, and you let us know about that. I didn't know about this. This was 2 hours ago, probably 3 hours ago now, a tweet from Tom Cotton. I just want you guys to see this, because this is, I mean, you got to have a government with compassion, right? And I don't know where ours went. This is Tom. I've listened to years to open borders liberals like Joaquin Castro extol the dreamers and demand passage of the Mass Amnesty Dream Act. Guess what the A in dream stands for? Yep, A equals alien. You know what? I don't believe we have any actual aliens on Earth, and if we did, I'd be wanting to talk to them. Do you really? I mean, no human.
It's
what?
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy, man. I mean, number one, the Dream Act was wonderful. I've met a dreamer while I'm in class, and she's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Did you know that if you're part of the DREAM program, you're a dream child, and you get suspended from school, you're automatically ejected from the program?
That's ridiculous.
That's how serious it is. So in order to be in the program, these are really good people. These aren't hooligans or criminals. These are good kids wanting a good life and wanting to contribute to our society to make our country better. Right. And we're going to treat them like aliens?
Yeah.
I mean,
we should take the Statue of Liberty down, right? It's no longer,
right.
Yeah,
fun fact, who gave us the Statue of Liberty? The French. It's a French statue. Are we going to get rid of it because it was given to us by, a foreign nation, immigrants? It's crazy, man.
We made fun of the French already after they gave us the statue in World War II. So, yeah, we're hypocrites all around. I just want to read everybody. This Tom Cotton's just an asshole, and I just want everybody to know that. Here's another tweet from him. Asylums should be the last resort for people fleeing real persecution. I guess regime change by the U.S. is not real persecution. That's spreading democracy. Not a free pass for anyone who simply prefers to be in the U.S. I'm sorry, he's just a big dickhead. I don't know what else to call Tom.
There's a lot of problems with our immigration that a lot of people aren't even aware of. So when if you're in a foreign nation and you want to apply for a visa to come and visit, you have to go into the USCIS building inside your embassy. That's where you get the paperwork. It's where you file. It's where they handle your case. Did you know that currently America is in the process of closing all of the USCIS offices inside foreign embassies?
Nice.
I mean, I've seen reports of, in order to apply for asylum, you have to cross the border, come into one of our designated buildings and apply for asylum. We're not letting people cross the border to migrate in a legal manner.
Right.
If you close the legal means, what do you expect people to do? Right. Especially if they go back home, they're facing the criminals that we have unleashed upon their society.
This is an important point, actually, that you're making here, and it ties in with this policy that you're talking about here, ties in with a new policy that takes effect, I don't know when this was, soon. When was this? July. This is July 2019. July, it's like yesterday. This is something that they've done. Marcus from Germany, you didn't meet Marcus, but he does research for us. He's a German citizen, and he's a volunteer. The European Union did something similar along the lines, but what they did was, and what the Trump administration has done, is now designated Canada as the only safe state. So all of the other countries around us that you could possibly come from, it's not that many, but the policy is that you have to apply for asylum in those countries first. All right. So closing our asylum offices is no big deal because you really can't apply for asylum unless you come through Canada. All right, to the U.S.
Public statement, a stunt.
Yeah. So
Just keep us distracted from what's really going on.
yeah, it just prevents. I mean, this way they're thinking less people will come through Mexico to our border because they'll be stuck in Mexican bureaucracy, right, or in Cuban bureaucracy. Right. So and what happened in the European Union, just so you know, is Greece and Italy were the two countries that got stuck with all the people coming over. And now Greece and Italy are super screwed and they hate the rest of the European Union. So, it wasn't exactly a great deal there.
And I mean, this happened recently, in the European Union. And that's another big problem that I have right now is, the way that we prevent ourselves from making the same mistakes other people have made is by learning from history. And we've gotten to the point where we're not learning from history. We're repeating mistakes. What happens every time you add tariffs? Our economy goes down. Who do tariffs hurt?
Us.
Americans.
Yes.
I mean, simple stuff. It's not like, oh, we've never had tariffs, so we're going to try this. It's we're going to be ignorant and do something out of spite.
Agreed.
And, things like that hurt American society rather than making an educated decision.
Agreed. Things like voting for Tom Cotton again and again. We got to stop that. Laura, live and good, do we have any questions out of Terry Brooks or anybody else in the audience?
Well, Dave just did want to broach the image as we are 20 minutes over time about trickle-down economics. I don't know if that's something that we can discuss briefly, but if you do have a short opinion on trickle-down economics, that would probably be nice for Dave.
What do you think about it?
Trickle down or supply side or Reaganomics, whatever you want to call it, realistically, in theory, it would work. It would be great. Unfortunately, it's a theory and it can't happen that way because people are greedy. It's human nature. And the greed has kept this money from trickling down. We look at this tax cut that, we cut $3 trillion for our tax break for the wealthy,
right,
thinking it would trickle down magically. Well, unfortunately, that went to huge CEO bonuses. It went to the largest stock buyback in history. Why is the market doing so good right now? Because we inflated it with all of that money. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that 90% of all shares are owned by 1% of shareholders?
Yeah, that's
I have
frightening.
another one for you. 86% of all transactions done in the market throughout the day are done by computer algorithms owned by those 1% of traders.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the market looks great right now, but all that's happening is all these working class families are pooling their money in the market. And instead of, their pool getting bigger, it's just trickling up through the market. I mean, trickle down economics doesn't work because of greed, and it will never work because of greed. Now, if you were to, instead of taking that $3 trillion and give it to all of the working class families, to everyone who has a job, works full time, and pays their taxes, what do poor people do with their money? We go out and we spend it. Oh, my car, one of my cars has a cracked engine block. I can't afford to fix that right now. But if I had a whole bunch of money, I would pay to fix that cracked engine block. Mm-hmm. That would spend money on parts. That would spend money on the mechanic fixing it. What is that mechanic going to do with that money? He's going to buy something he needs, and the money will trickle up every single time because poor people spend money. What do rich people do with their money? They put it in banks. They invest it.
Right.
And that money won't trickle down. It will build interest for banks and billionaires.
Well, occasionally they buy a yacht, though. Occasionally,
yeah, they buy a yacht.
Yeah,
and
support the yachting industry.
Yeah. Oh man, making yachting great again.
Jeez, affordable again would be cool. Any other questions, Laura?
No, that was that. Thank you. That was a good answer. And so, and if anybody has any burning questions, you can always put them in the comments of this video afterward, and we'll. Dan is going to cherish this video for his whole life, so you'll all be going back to look at it, and he will answer your questions there, or reach out to him on social media, Facebook or Twitter.
Yeah.
One thing about me, myself, Dan Whitfield, and other candidates running for elected offices is I will take the time to respond to your question in the comments.
That's awesome.
A lot of people, they won't touch their social media accounts because it's hard, because, there are some haters out there. And I will take the time to respond to any question. Just try to be nice and just I will respond if you ask, because that's what representatives should do, is they should talk to constituents and represent them.
That's very true. It would be awesome if we could get that. Your direct democracy, right? If all I had to do was text you.
I've pledged to hold at least 12 town halls a year. I'll get to the point where I'm going to have a schedule book where I'll meet with constituents for a coffee for breakfast, or a quick bite for lunch or something. If you want to go sit on the side of the lake, toss a line in the water, and catch some catfish and talk policy, voice your concerns to me, I'm down. That's the job of a representative, to listen to the people, and that's what I want to be, what I am.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. It's kind of the politics I remember from, I guess, old day. I don't remember. For some time in the past, politics were supposedly like this.
I'm at a faraway place, long time ago.
Yes, long time ago. It was a great conversation. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for joining us. And support Dan if you can, please. Here's where you go. DanWhittCongress.us. We've got at DanWhittCongress on Twitter, Facebook. Dan is an independent running to get rid of evil, bad Tom Cotton. And there's an establishment Dem running who doesn't have a chance. So Dan's your man.
Yeah, if we want to replace Cotton, there's only one way.
There you go. Thank you, everybody. We are getting out of here with a very cool pick that Marcus found. Although it looks like I got to get through the ad here. Let's just get through the ad.
Well, you're going through the ad. We don't have We the People next week because I'm going on vacation.
Oh, right.
Actually, we don't have it the week after that because you're going to be heading up, and I just didn't.
Oh wow! Didn't even think about that because I'll be going down to California to see Laura, and I do want to. Did I get this in here? I do want to mention this though before we play the cool song.
Friday night, Friday
night. We are having a conversation with Ken Ward, and if you don't know who Ken is, he's an actual real-life climate action hero, one of the 5 valve turners who shut down the Kinder Morgan pipeline. That's all 5 of our pipelines running from Canada tar sands into the United States. The documentary, I watched it yesterday. It's amazing. Go to thereluctantradical.com. You can download it. You can rent it. You can order it for your school, or you can find a PBS station that's playing it. They've got a schedule on there as well, so you don't have to pay for it. We're talking to Ken on Friday, and I've already had a couple emails with him. The guy is just amazing, and I'm a big fan of direct action. So, just join us for that, because it's going to be pretty damn impressive to have a conversation with Ken Ward. He lives in Oregon. He's up in Portland, and he's like one of the leaders of XR Portland, and we're going to talk about that. And, so I'm excited about that. So, thank you, everybody. This is Only One Will Survive, Songify the Dem Debate. It's ridiculous. It's awesome, and I can't believe they're letting us play it, but we're going to run it, and you're going to have a ball. Just enjoy it. Bernie does a fucking guitar solo.
Oh, no.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Dan.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.
And I just always think about my dad and anything I would do. My dad had half his leg blown off. My grandfather was actually separated from his family when he came to this country.
We're going to talk about Iran right now because we're working against the clock.
Necesitamos incluir cada votante necesitamos escuchar.
Pues la situación ahora es inaceptable. Demonizado, voy a cambiar este.
Grandmom is in the race. Now's the chance for all you randoms to make your case.
I grew up with a single mother who raised me and my brother, and I know what it's like to struggle.
Okay,
I'm a father of a 2-year-old. I change diapers, so I'm a modernizer.
who are you?
My dad, my father. I'm the dad. Always thinking about my dad.
It can only be one.
When you were so old, I will learn this inspiration.
Got to cut it down from a million.
There's not a single thing we can't do. So God bless you all. God protect our troops.
When the day is done, who's it gonna be? And why are we doing this in 2019? Let's go.
I spoke with firefighters.
I have led the effort to change diapers.
Some people that'll be alive in 2069? Will they all overheat and die?
12 years before there is irreparable damage. Let's get together for the future of the planet.
I broke my toe and went bankrupt. Paid $20,000. Can we please make the system less fucked?
Healthcare is a basic human right, and I will fight for basic human rights.
The big question, can you beat Trump? Or will you get punked and get run over like a speed bump?
Mr. President, I want you to hear. If you're listening, you have harnessed fear. So sir, I will meet you on that field. I'm going to harness love. Only love can heal. And sir, love will win.
My dad, my father.
I'm the dad.
Always thinking about my dad.
It can only be one.
For you is so long. I will harness inspiration.
Got to cut it down from a million.
There's not a single thing we can't do. So God bless you all. God protect our troops.
When the day's done, who's it gonna be? Why can't we do this in 2020?
I spoke with firefighters.
I have led the effort to change diapers.
Me llamo Julian Castro.
Smoke yo ho! Slap the bell to check into the